Hello students, hope you all have enjoyed your recess. In the second session of our online classes, I welcome you all to our first English class. In our class today, we are going to revise a poem and then we will drill some grammar exercises. And after that, we will revise our writing skill. Now let's start. Now, I hope that all of you have studied the fourth lesson of Bliss, that is, My Own True Family, a poem written by Ted Hughes. Yes, dear, it is a poem where we see that one day the poet entered an oak wood while looking for a stag. There he met an old woman having a noble steak and dressed in rags. The woman declared that she had the poet's secret in her little bag. Then she made some strange sounds and the poet trembled. When the woman opened her little bag, the poet woke up and found himself tied to a stake and surrounded by a tribe looking at him. The members of the tribe were the oak trees who claimed to be the true family of the poet. They expressed their grievance that the poet and others remained indifferent when oak trees are cut down. They told the poet that he must make promise to plant 2 oak trees whenever one is chopped down. Otherwise, the black oak bark would wrinkle over him. When the poet's dream was over and he came back to human company, he remained a human being outwardly, though his heart had become that of a tree. So girls, this was a brief summary of the poem, and I know that you all have gone through the poem properly. Now we will begin our discussion with some long answer type question. And here you can see some LAQs or long answer type question. Let me first read the questions for you. What kind of a poem is My Own True Family? Next, what were the complaints made by the oak wood? Number 3, what did the oak wood demand? Number 4, how was the old woman in the poem? Number 5, how did the dream of the poet alter him? Now, let's discuss the answer. But before doing so, let me just remind you that you may answer any question based on literature in various ways. So, what I am going to do is to give you a guideline only to the answers. Since you will have to follow the word limit when you will write the answers in board exam, you need to be careful while answering the questions. What kind of a poem is My Own True Family? My Own True Family is a dream narrative. It is a symbolic poem which describes the magical experiences of the poet in an oak wood. It tells us strongly that we should try to protect our natural environment for the welfare of mankind. Question number 2. What were the complaints made by the oak wood? The trees complained to the poet that they were cut ruthlessly, mercilessly, but the poet and other human beings showed no interest to save them. Rather, they preferred to be indifferent while such killing of trees were taking place. Number 3. What did the oak wood demand? The oak tree demanded that whenever the poet would see an oak tree felled, he would plant 2 to replace that. So in place of 1 tree, the poet will plant 2 trees to replace that vacant place. In other words, man should try to protect his mother nature. Whenever a deforestation will take place, we should be aware, we as in human being, we should be aware to afforest or to plant many trees. How was the old woman in the poem? In the oak wood, the poet in his dream met an old woman having a noble stick and dressed in rags. She had a strange little bag with her, in which, according to her, she had the secret of the poet. She was able to make strange sounds that make the poet quake, rather make the poet tremble in fear. This old woman is actually our mother nature. Our ignorance and indifference towards her has turned our mother nature feeble and untidy. The next question is, how did the dream of the poet alter him? The poet was altered by the dream, and he could feel the importance of trees in human life. They are not our foes, but our friends. They are our own true family. Now, question number 6. What happened when the old woman opened her little bag? Question number 7. Name the poetic devices used by the poet in this poem. Number 8. Justify the title of the poem. And number 9. What was the promise that the poet had to make? Now let's discuss the 6th question. What happened when the old woman opened her little bag? When the old woman opened her little bag, the poet became twice aware about the presence of the tribe of oak trees staring at him. They complained about the poet's indifference to the cutting of oak trees. Question number 7. Name the poetic devices used by the poet in this poem. The poetic devices used in this poem are, first, metaphor. In the expression, the old woman, all nobly stick and rag, it stands for the poor and exploited state of Mother Nature. The second device is personification. The oak trees have been given human attributes. So oak trees are personified by the poet. And the last one is symbolism. The poem is replete with symbols. First, the child's search for the stag is a symbol of man's quest for the ideal attained. Secondly, twice awake, this expression suggests barrenness. The dream that altered the child is a symbol of spiritual reawakening. So, these three major poetic devices are used in this poem. Question number 8. Justify the title of the poem. Now girls, it is a little longer than the other questions. Now let's discuss. The poem deals with the relationship between human beings and trees. Trees are the best friends of human beings. In fact, they are the real family of human beings. But men rarely show any fellow feeling for trees, their own family members. They chop down the trees mercilessly for their short-term benefit. Here in the poem, Ted Hughes expresses the same idea in the form of an interaction between a child and an oak tree. In a dream, they tell the poet to promise that he will plant 2 oak trees whenever one is cut down. When the dream is over, the child finds his heart filled with empathy for the trees. The title of the poem is apt as it unveils the theme of the poem in a very direct manner. And the next question is, what was the promise that the poet had to make? The poet had to promise to plant 2 oak trees whenever one would be chopped down. It actually made the poet conscious about protecting nature for our own interest. Now let's move on to the next category of questions, that is short answer type questions or SAQs. The questions are: write the name of the poet of the poem. How did the oak wood describe their sad conditions to the poet? Number 3. What does the old woman symbolize? Number 4. What is the message of the poem? Number 5. Where was the poet surrounded by a staring tribe? Where was he tied to? Now let's discuss the answers. The name of the poet. So, question number 1. Edward James Ted Hughes is the poet of My Own True Family. Now girls, here I just want to remind you one thing. If you are asked to name any author, you should provide the full name. Question number 2. How did the oak wood describe their sad condition to the poet? The tribe of the oak wood tied the poet to a stake and informed that it's very sad that people cut them down mercilessly, and the general people, like that of the poet, do not protest. They prefer to remain indifferent to the agony of the plant kingdom. The next question is, What does the old woman symbolize? The old woman symbolizes the mother nature. Next, what is the message of the poem? The poem delivers the message of the significance of protecting our natural environment for the welfare of mankind before it is too late. Question number 5. Where was the poet surrounded by a staring tribe? And where was he tied to? In an oak wood, the poet was surrounded by a staring tribe of oak wood, and he was tied to a stake. Question number 6. Who are the poet's own true family? Question number 7. What did the woman say to the poet? Question number 8. What change took place in the poet when he came out of the oak wood? Question number 9. What do the trees mean by the expression, "You do not blink an eye"? And the last question in this category is, what did the old woman begin to do? Now, once again, let's discuss the answers. Question number 6. Who are the poet's own true family? The oak trees, rather the plant kingdom, were the poet's own true family. Question number 7. What did the old woman say to the poet? The old woman told the poet that she had the secrets of the poet in her little bag. Question number 8. What change took place in the poet when he came out of the oak wood? The poet came out of the oak wood. Physically, he was a man, but he had the heart of a tree. Question number 9. What do the trees mean by the expression, "You do not blink an eye"? The expression, "You do not blink an eye," means that human beings are indifferent to the pain and suffering of the oak wood. The oak wood that represents the entire plant kingdom. And the last question is, what did the old woman begin to do? The old woman began to laugh in a shrill way. So girls, these were some basic questions on the poem My Own True Family. Now let me give you some practice material. Here you will have some objective type questions which you will have to do on your own. Now let's move on to objective type questions. Question number A. Choose the correct alternative to complete the following sentences. 1. Creeping in an oak wood, the poet was looking for a option A, a goat, option B, stag, option C, buffalo, and option D, cow. Number 2. Whenever an oak tree is felled, the number of plants the poet must plant is A, 2, option B, 3, option C, 4, and option D, 5. Sentence number 3. The poet came across A, a stag, B, a child, C, an old woman, and option D, young lady. Sentence number 4. The poet began to quake when the old woman A, laughed, B, cackled, C. shouted, and option D. smiled. The last sentence is, the poet was tied to A. post, B. pillar, C. peg, and D. tree. Objective type question. Question number B. Complete the following sentences with information from the text. Number 1. The theme of the poem My Own True Family is. Number 2. The staring tribe refers to. Number 3. The poet dreamt a dream lying. Number 4. The poet feels that his dream. And number 5. If the poet does not swear. Girls, I hope the revision of the poem My Own True Family will help you. But please do practice the exercises at home. Now, from literature, let's move on to language, that is, to grammar and writing skill. As I have told you at the beginning of the class, that today we will drill grammar exercises, but before doing so, let's revise our grammar lesson on conjunctions. Now, as we all know that conjunctions are the joining words, and there are 4 kinds of conjunctions, and they are cumulative conjunctions, adversative conjunctions, alternative conjunctions, and elative conjunctions. The cumulative conjunctions are both, and, not only, but also, etc. Whereas the adversative conjunctions would be but, still, yet, however, nevertheless, etc. Alternative conjunctions, some examples would be or, either or, neither nor. And elative conjunctions, some elative conjunctions are therefore, for, so, as, because, since. Conjunctions are required to join 2 or more than 2 sentences. Now, let us do some exercises on conjunctions. Here, you are given some exercises on joining of sentences with the help of conjunctions. We have followed the pattern of the Madhyamik question pattern as it is mentioned in the 3rd lesson of Bliss, the passing away of Bapu. Now let's see what are the sentences. Join with conjunctions mentioned in brackets. Sentence number 1. I was annoyed. I kept quiet. Join with adversative conjunction. Sentence number 2. He is a fool. He is a knave. Join with cumulative conjunction. 3. We can travel by land. We can travel by water. Use alternative conjunction. Number 4. The wind blew. The rain fell. The lightning flashed. Join with cumulative conjunction. Number 5. He failed. He persevered. Join with adversative conjunction. 6. I cannot see. It is very dark. Join with elative conjunction. Number 7. Go in. Go out. use alternative conjunction to join the pair of sentences. 8. I shall not oppose your design. I cannot approve of it. Adversative conjunction to be used over here. Number 9. He was obstinate. He was punished. Use elative conjunction to join the sentences. And the last pair is do not be a borrower, do not be a lender. Use alternative conjunction. The last topic of the day is story writing. Now, what is a story? A story is an account of imaginary or real people and events. It is told for entertainment and also for educational purposes. Now, how to write a story? Here are some guidelines for you. First, read the given points several times until you understand the plot of the story. Next, give a title to the story, and the title should be given or written in capital letters. Next, your task would be to elaborate the points in sentences one by one. The next step would be, if the story is a fable, you'll have to give a moral at the end of the story. After that, if required, add 1 or 2 points of your own to the story. But please do not change the given storyline. And the last point is very relevant, very important. Try to use simple sentences and, if needed, use direct speech. Now here are some practice materials on story writing. Develop the following points into story. Give title and moral. Question number 1. The points are: 3 children collecting mangoes near railway track. One sees a crack on rails. Hears a train coming. Senses danger. Tears his red shirt. 3 pieces. Waves like flags. Driver stops. Accident avoided. Children rewarded. Number 2. The points are: a hungry cricket knocked at an ant's door and allowed him to come in. Cricket explained his plight to ant. Ant, moved with pity, asked the cricket about the way he spent his spring. Shut the door. And the points of the last story are: the organs of the body think they are doing everything. The belly is only eating. To teach the belly a lesson, they go on a strike. Soon, they themselves become weak. They understand their mistake. Call of the strike. Students, I hope you have not only enjoyed today's class but also have found it to be useful. I wish you all the best. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you all.